Good afternoon. My name is Juanesha Davis, and I will be doing my interview for my senior project. It is January 22nd, 2017, and 12:07 p.m. Today, my mentor is Ms. Christy Keller, and her job title is a spiritual mentor and a Sunday school teacher. Today, we will be discussing my interview on bullying, social behavior issues such as peer pressure, etiquette, and manners. Okay, Ms. Christie, how does lack of etiquette and manners affect the lives of high schoolers daily?
Well, one thing that really stands out to me that when you don't use etiquette or when you don't have manners, it's an obvious display of disrespect. Whether it be to your peers, whether it be to your teachers, whether it be just passing by staff in the hallway. It shows that it's I'm all about me attitude, and no one around affects me because I don't acknowledge the next person and or treat them in a respectful manner. I believe that when you lack those things, it's going to be hard to go into society and hold jobs. I mean, the ultimate goal is to have some form of career. And in this day and age, when you have a career, you're going to interact with other people. And in order to get people to buy in to what you're doing, whether it be, you starting your own job or working with a company, getting, management to want to hire you, you have to show some level of respect. You have to show them that you're willing to listen. You're willing to take constructive criticism. You're also willing to adapt to change. If you look at our society, we're constantly changing. And I think whenever you go through a lot of changes in life, you have to have some form of respect for the person that you're going through the change with, or the person that's bringing that change about in your life. So I think when you lack those things, it can really cause some issues later on in life, and especially in your career and dealings with just other people in general.
Okay, well, with that being said, another question is, why are manners and proper etiquette important in today's society?
Well, particularly in today's society, a lot of things that people tend to really, the way of communication, one being social media. You have Instagram, you have Snapchat, you have Facebook, Twitter, you have all these avenues of communication that tend to get away from what etiquette and manners are. And let me go back to the question.
Why are manners and proper etiquette important in today's society?
In today's society, when it comes to using those forms of communication, actually they're being misused. Like I go back to what I just said earlier, I mean, the importance of actually being able to have etiquette, manners, and being able to respect others. I mean, it's just being able to deal with human mankind. And I think a lot of people get away from that. Like I go back to saying, this is all about me society. We have Snapchat to where you're displaying yourself. You want people to see you and know everything about you. But it's almost a form of vanity. And when you have that much vanity in you, it's hard for you to really look at others and be respectful of what they're doing. It's hard for you to actually respect what they're doing, especially when it's different than what you are accustomed to doing. I think a lot of things that we do now, as far as high schoolers are concerned, a lot of things are being done to shun other people because they're not like them, or to point out certain weaknesses that other people see. And sometimes social media is used in that format. You have bullying, you have people making comments on other people's posts, you have people pointing out to them exactly what they don't like about the person. So when you don't have etiquette, when you don't have manners, those things go by the wayside. That's why you make those negative comments. So I think you have to be very careful in the way that you do that, because you could really be hurting someone and putting them in a bad situation. And I just feel like a lot of the things that were taught when I was growing up, that's fallen by the wayside. And it's not just from a high school perspective, because it starts at home. And sometimes you get it at home, but when you get to school, sometimes it can be difficult for you to carry that on, because you might have other people pressuring you not to be like that, because they feel as if you might be giving in, or they might feel as if, you want to be so different from the next. Everybody wants to be part of something. And, You just don't see a lot of high school students walking around with manners. And it doesn't matter what the background of the person, where it comes from, where they come from. It doesn't matter if you come from a household and you might have 10 siblings and you all share, you only have a 2-bedroom house. It's not about economics. It's not about, wealth or anything like that, because you have a lot of kids that live a privileged life, and they're just as disrespectful as a person that comes from a, 2-apartment household and they might live on the floor. So I think not having that is very detrimental in today's society, because society allows a lot of negative comments to be made about other people, and we glorify that negative.
I think we could both agree on that. Okay, another question is, does it seem like high schoolers in low-income areas are more likely to have lack of proper etiquette, and why?
That has nothing to do with, as far as the income in your household does not dictate how a high school person acts. There's things that, that do occur in life. You might not be able to wear the latest and greatest clothes. That doesn't mean that you're prone to be disrespectful to your teachers. You have children that walk around with designer clothes all day, and they feel as if they're privileged. They feel as if everything is supposed to be handed to them, which makes them disrespectful. It makes them feel as if, okay, if you don't do it for me, don't worry, my parents are going to do it for me. That's a form of disrespect. It could be a person in a school, in a classroom setting, and they might have received a bad grade, and they might tell the teacher, well, it doesn't matter because I know my parents can talk to you, or they can talk to someone else, and they can do something about it. So it has nothing to do with your economic status or whether or not you are a mannerable person, or if you have etiquette. I do believe that a person can live in a household without an actual table and know how to set a table set. You don't actually have to have a table in front of you, but with everything that's at our fingertips as it comes to being able to look on YouTube, being able to read, everything is in a book, and that's what people don't understand. Everything is right there in the book. So you can be taught certain things, but not have access to those things. So economic status has nothing to do with it. It's one of those things to me, if that's being used as an excuse or as a study that most low-income people tend not to have manners, you really are probably, and I would have to dispute that. I would like to really see the study that's done on that. That has nothing to do with it. I know a lot of people that come from well backgrounds. I know a lot of people that have made good money, and they don't even know what correct fork to use at a table. So,
okay, being that you said that, describe an average high school student that shows lack of manners and respect. By this being said, I'm saying, can you describe a person that comes into a high school setting every day that doesn't display manners correctly or any form of respect?
Well, I'm not a teacher, so I'm not in the classroom setting, so I can't speak to that aspect of it. I can say that teenagers that I have come in contact with, it's just common courtesy when you're around an adult, even if you are a high schooler, and you might use foul language around your friends. When you see an adult around you, you know not to do that. You don't do it at home around your parents, but when you get out with your friends, and that's the form of peer pressure, you use foul language. And I've come in contact with being around other teenagers, high schoolers, that they do use foul language. They don't care who they're around. So that's one of those instances. And even more so, being out and about, and it is rare to find young high school men that will hold the door for a female. They'll walk through the door before they hold the door for a female to walk through. That's etiquette. When you see a woman walking up, you step to the side, hold the door, and then you walk behind. You don't see a lot of that these days.
Okay, and finally, based off your knowledge, who do you think is responsible for our high school teens' lack of etiquette and manners?
So one, it starts at the house. It starts at the home. If you don't have a respect for your parents, 9 times out of 10, it depends on the situation, so let me backtrack that. It does start at the home. When you come from a household, and I'm not saying that you have to come from a 2-parent household, that's not the norm these days. 2-parent households are not the norm these days. So I would just feel like when you don't get it from home, doesn't mean that you can't get it from the school or from your church. So you would think that it starts at home, from a parent, an uncle, an aunt, a godparent, a grandparent, wherever the case might be. I mean, that's the foundation of a lot of things that you learn is when you go home, because that's where your influence really takes place. By the time you get to high school, you've surrounded yourself with so many different people. From elementary, junior high, high school, you might have changed schools at some point. Administration might be different. Your teachers that you're encountering might be different. So I think the schools also play a role into that, because you have a lot of teachers that might not show respect for the student. And when you see the student around the parent, a teacher can think, well, they respect their parents, but they might not respect the teacher in the classroom. And to me, that's more of an administration. I think sometimes you have situations where teachers don't know how to interact with their students because they don't come from the same community that their students grow up in.
Okay, well, do you feel like the reason that things aren't taking place at home, they're lacking etiquette and manners at home because the parent may not be knowledgeable?
Oh, very much so. I mean, you can't expect for every household to sit down and say, okay, when you go to a fine dining restaurant, this is how, when you sit down, the first thing you do is place a napkin in your lap. Whenever someone invites you to dinner and you know that they're paying for you, you don't ever order over the amount versus the person, who's actually going to be paying for the meal. Not everybody knows that. You have households where they might not even go out to dinner. But like I said, everything is about what you want to know, and everything can be found in a book. And I don't even want to say that everything is on the internet. It is on the internet, but I don't ever want to assume that every household has Wi-Fi. I don't want to ever assume that every household has a laptop, a notebook or money to purchase that. But it's in a book. You can go to your local library and you can look up things on etiquette if you truly want to learn. When you get in the workforce, at some point, you're going to interact and go out to lunch with people. And whether it be upper management, whether it be your co-workers, you're going to be out in public at some point in a restaurant. You should know how to conduct yourself. So there are households where other people might not know those things. But if you, as a high school teen, recognize that hey, these are things that my parents or my guardians don't do, then you have to take it upon yourself in order to learn those things. And that's the things that you could go back home and say, hey, this is what I learned. It's not to show them or make it seem as if I know more than you. I think the more that you know, the more you should share.
Okay, well, I would definitely like to thank you for your time on making me knowledgeable about these social behavior issues. Thank you.
Definitely enjoyed the conversation.
My name is Juanesha Davis, and today I will be filming the second part of my interview for my senior project. Once again, my senior project title is on social behavior issues such as bullying, peer pressure, lack of etiquette, and manners. Today, my mentor is Mr. Aaron Hillard. Okay, so today I'm going to ask you a series of questions. What is bullying?
Bullying is when someone is taken advantage of and they're intimidated or fearful to stand up and speak for themselves about what's being done to them in the wrong way.
Okay, and what is peer pressure?
Peer pressure is usually when friends or associates are doing something that an individual really don't want to do, but they'll, because of that friendship, because of that acquaintance, they'll do something normally that they would not normally do themselves.
Can you give me an example of a scenario of peer pressure?
Well, I think in today's society, a lot of teens, just to fit in, or getting put into peer pressure situations, with whether it's drugs or sex or bullying, just to fit in with the crowd, so that way they won't be picked on themselves and they'll just fit in with the group.
Okay, how does bullying and peer pressure affect our high school teens today?
Because of the basic two things that I said, teen pregnancy, drugs, a lot of things that's taking place in high schools today. We see the numbers statistically. A lot of teens are being pressured to do things that they don't want to. A close friend of mine, his daughter went through bullying for 2 years, and once he found out about it, she had to get like 8 months of counseling.
What percentage of high school teens today would you say are affected by bullying, and how do you feel many are affected?
I would say the same reasons that I said earlier, but I think the percentage depends on the school system, the environment of the teachers, and just the support element that's there. I think if you have a lot of visibility, a lot of teacher engagement, a lot of monitoring with the students, I think bullying is less likely to take place.
How does respect better high school teens, and what do high school students also gain from giving respect?
I think anytime you gain respect, you'll get respect, and I think a lot of high school teens, depending on the environment that they come from, whether it's a culture at home or whether it's a culture that they are around, that feed them with positive things and things that teach them to respect people and other people's property, I think that things like that are more likely to help them out to be better.
Why do you think parents do not teach proper respect?
Well, I think because in today's society, there's a lot of attraction to things that are extreme, as far as whether it's music, whether it's just a lot of different things in today's society that's exposed as far as social media, that the parents themselves, they are interested in, they are intrigued by those things. So they allow their kids to get into all of these things. And I think those things take away from just having a good moral foundation and spiritual foundation to teach kids to respect others, to respect the elderly people, and just everyone in society.
On a scale of 1 to 10, if social behavior issues were implemented in high schools as a mandatory elective, how much of a difference do you think it would make on today's high school society?
I think it would make a huge difference because that would definitely be a part of their daily learning, and they would be graded on those behaviors, and that would help them in their character development.
So pretty much you feel like it would, they would be graded on their progress, on whether they're actually taking the initiative to become a better person and make a difference in the world.
Yes.
Okay, and finally, explain how students can overcome daily social behavior issues.
Well, I think it starts with the parents or who's ever present in their home that's dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. Just teaching them, number one, to respect authority. Number two, to have some type of organization about themselves, and to know what's respectful and what's disrespectful. I think a lot of what today's teens are doing, they don't know what's disrespectful. They don't know what's respectful. And I think just to help them to identify those things would help them to understand when I'm being disrespectful or when I'm not being disrespectful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.